Okay, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. To have a really cool little sneak preview for you guys from the brand Jack Mason. Now, they're an American micro brand proudly based out of Dallas, Texas. Originally known for their popular, well-designed, and overbuilt fashion watches. Yes, overbuilt. While many mainstream fashion brands can be a letdown in the metal, Jack Mason has been a pleasant surprise for its customers, offering solid construction, sapphire crystals, Swiss Superluminova BGW9, to really a demographic that typically just buys mostly based on design aesthetic alone, and now have been inspired to expand into the highly competitive premium mechanical microbrand space, shifting the lessons learned from dealing in higher volume aimed at a broad market into developing more enthusiast-focused product lines. Now, in terms of the type of watch, this is a pilot's watch. Some key characteristics and design language, you're looking for something within this space. Of course, you're going to find that balance between legibility and functionality, and this particular model really leans towards that function-forward nature. This is their Pursuit Pro in the Shadow colorway, and after a decade of watchmaking, Dallas-based Jack Mason is taking its American heritage into uncharted territory with its most capable design yet, the Pursuit Pro. Now, this purpose-built piece is really made to meet the founder Peter Cho's field requirements. And, this has been tested in the rugged Texas backcountry. The Pursuit Pro is designed to keep pace pretty much when the trail just demands more. These are going to go for $13.99 direct, and this preview sample was kindly provided by the brand. So big shout out to Jack Mason. So with all that said, guys, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, guys, so very cool. I love the fine details here. Definitely, of course, this brand is known for their design, and now more so even for their fine execution in terms of this latest generation of more enthusiast-based timepieces. Now, this piece has a 40 millimeter diameter in terms of the case, and then a 42 millimeter diameter in terms of the bezel. So you can see there is a fair amount of overhang there. You're gonna see fine little fun details, like check this out. The actual lip on the edge of that coin edge is actually raised slightly so that you are now getting an additional amount of protection for that ceramic bezel insert. So that is just very, very cool. And again, I appreciate those little fine details. So in terms of the thickness, you're going to have about 12.6 millimeters. And you can see it looks still quite thin. I like that they really have the proportions dialed in. Nice, thin mid case, beautifully beveled above and below. And then you do have the slight protrusion for the case back, as well as that bezel, and it just looks quite balanced. And some of you are thinking maybe they could have made the case back flatter, but you know what? They do have a bit of a little Faraday cage in there for some additional anti-magnetic resistance, which is great. So up to 36,000 AM. So very, very nice. Now, in terms of the lug to lug, 46.5 millimeters lug to lug, which is extremely wearable. Full 316L stainless steel construction, brushed with polished accents, as you guys can see here. Nice sharp transitions in terms of the beveling, not sharp to the touch, but sharp to the eye, and of course only softened by my little muggy fingerprints. Now, in terms of the crystal, it's a flat sapphire with a dual layer of AR coating, which is nice. And then you do have a screw down crown, which is also nicely signed and detailed. Now, in terms of the movement inside, although you can't see it, it's going to be the Swiss automatic Lejeune Perret G101. So that's going to give you a 68-hour power reserve, which is nicely extended, but you still get the 4 hertz sweep. So very nice 28,800 vibrations per hour in terms of that beat rate. Now, again, just to mention, the case back is solid and screwed in. Nothing to write home about, but still quite nicely executed. as you guys can see. Very nice. And underneath that, of course, is going to have that magnetic resistance up to 36,000 AM. In terms of the dial here, guys, there's a lot going on, but I have to say it comes together really quite handsomely. You're going to get these applied 3D Lumicast indices with printed elements as well. And then you're going to see this Swiss Superluminova grade X2 as well, and then the hands are nicely painted, so you're going to get a nice kind of more sterile, very function forward aesthetic, and I really do like that. Now, in terms of the water resistance, with that screw down crown intact, which is nice, so you're going to have all the seals are in place, and it's not going to easily pop back out. You're going to get 20 atmospheres or 200 meters of water resistance, which is outstanding for a watch like this, right? Because a pilot's watch doesn't have to, but I appreciate when it does. And it doesn't have to have a turning bezel, but 120 click, bidirectional, loomed brush ceramic insert, and that signature pilot's countdown setup. This bezel action is just butter, but it has enough tactile clickiness. Oh, fidget friendly. All right. Now, in terms of the lug width, 20 millimeters, and you can see it does have quite a nice little nylon hook and loop trail strap with quick release spring bars. And you guys can see even the quick release spring bars are engineered. This isn't an off the shelf piece. If I can get it to focus on it. There you go. You guys can see there, really nice. So this isn't going to stick out. It's not going to dig into your wrist. I do like that. And you can see nice little pull tab, all monochromatic on this particular colorway. Although I wish they would have went with like a high visibility orange right there. I think that would have been very cool. But you guys can also notice, look at this hardware. Look at the level of, let me just give it a quick little wipe so you guys can kind of enjoy this. And it's, I don't know about full glory, but this is a review sample and it is a pre-production model. So it's not going to be quite as nice as the finished product, but man, this is already impressive. Look at that. Look at the bevels, the hairline brushing. This is really beautifully executed. And again, they do things that they didn't have to do, and I just appreciate it. So again, you have this beautiful 20 millimeter nylon hook and loop strap. It works pretty simply there, as you guys can see. So with that said, let's actually get it on the wrist and see how it wears. Okay, as you guys can see on my 7.5-inch wrist, quite nice. Of course, with the addition of that bezel, it's going to extend the face of the watch because it's black on black. Also, of course, it's extending the watch because it's taking that bezel out to about 42 millimeters versus the 40 that's underneath. Now, as you guys can notice too, though, when I keep my wrist closer to the lens, it's going to create a fair amount of perspective distortion, and this is going to make the watch seem a lot larger than it actually is, right? It's like you have it down here. It's not because it's smaller, but look, as everything proportionally gets smaller, you're also noticing the sides of the strap more. You're seeing that this watch head looks more centered all of a sudden. So what I like to do is keep my wrist nice and low and then just tighten up the frame so that you guys can get still a detailed look, but just add a bit of a truer aspect ratio as to how this may lay on your owner. So you can see beautifully thin, guys. Look at the detailing there. Woo. Excuse me. Thank you for the blessings and gazoon. Hey, part 2. Sorry. Ooh, in the comments. Thank you in advance. Now, check that out. Very, very nice. Beautifully thin. It just hits all the right marks. It feels like a purpose-built, very deliberate tool watch, and I appreciate it. Some people really try to add bells and whistles when it comes to luxury finishing, which I appreciate as well. But when you have something where the theme is just executed to a higher level and the details all come together in a really special way, you don't necessarily need to have too much that's quote unquote fancy, because it just feels elevated. And that is what we have here. This is a pilot's watch elevated. Does it need to be this good? It doesn't. Does it action on a bezel? Does it even need a bezel? No, but it does. And it has a brushed ceramic bezel with lume. And does it have to have beautiful high contrast? Yes, it needs high contrast, but does it have to be 3D applied lume markers? No, right? But it's just, you're glad that they did though, because it just comes together. Oof, this thing is tempting. So with that said, let's go ahead, get this off the wrist, set up for some lume shots, low light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. Yes. Look at that lume, and you even do get a nice little offset where you get a little bit of blue, a little bit of green. So, but in a way that just, again, it comes together thematically. You're getting something that has been thought out end to end and built from the ground up to hit a standard, to nail a theme, to just be something more than the sum of its parts. So one thing I do like to work in is going to be that low light transition, because you're always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to find yourself coming out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, or just hanging out underneath the shade of a tree. So it is nice to see what these colors, textures, and finishes render like in less than optimal lighting. As you guys can see, there's not a lot of light play, nothing crazy, but you know what? The brushing on that bezel insert is quite special. Also, the matte on the dial, the 3D nature of this lume that is still just glowing brightly, guys. And again, this is a flight watch. This isn't a dive watch where, you know, it's not necessary. I mean, it's appreciated, don't get me wrong. And in today's modern cockpits, I've been told from active pilots out there that a pitch black cockpit does enjoy having powerful lume from, you know, direct pilots themselves. This is something that they appreciate. But again, you know, also there are modern cockpits that have great lighting. So it's not necessary in some cases, but it's always appreciated. And look at that lume. It is still just a torch. And this hasn't even been sitting out in, you know, daylight charging or anything like that. This was just from being under some LED lights in my little makeshift studio. So I have to say, this is quite handsome, quite impressive, and still ultimately super legible. And I like the flow there with some of those color accents, the pops of red, pops of high visibility orange, the play in between blue and green. Yeah, I dig it. I dig it. I want one. Jack Mason, if you're listening, guys, cut me a deal. I could wear this watch. This is a very cool watch. Now, closing thoughts, guys. On the wrist, great sporty everyday proportions, thin mid case, helps cut visual weight from the side profile, and then that inner anti-magnetic cage does add a touch of noticeable heft in hand, but thankfully it doesn't feel unbalanced on wrist. So you're going to feel this, and you're going to be like, this does have some heft to it. Not heavy, not unbalanced, not top heavy, but I will say, for as thin as the profile appears visually, this is going to feel like something quite substantial. Now, in terms of model variants, check the site links in the description for current options and availability. I know at the time of filming this, there's just one other option, and it's more of a trail-oriented side, where this is going to be more of that monochromatic aviation kind of traditional setup. They have one that has a couple more pops of color that I think gives it just a total overland vibe, which I think looks very, very cool. But there's something I'm just weak for these types of super versatile models. Now, in terms of comparable models, yes, the price point does put these models in the upper tier of Swiss-powered pilot watches. But when it comes to features, These are pretty easy to consider fully loaded. Add to that the US assembly and regulation from a brand that's been around and clearly isn't going away anytime soon, and it does make a compelling value argument. Think Fortis meets Tudor. And that's what I think when I feel this and I look at it. And I turn the bezel. It just gives me those elevated Swiss vibes, and it does have some Swiss chops when it comes to that movement, when it comes to the Lume refinement and everything like that. But then, yes, this is, something that is assembled here in the good old US of A. So for me, guys, bottom line, the Pursuit Pro really has it all. From design to execution and specs, it really hits all the right marks. And as much as I love a good historical reissue, guys, I own plenty of them if you're fans of the channel, this more contemporary and specialized take just feels so much more purposeful and capable as a total package. But let me know what you all think down in the comments below. If you liked the video, please do a like. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.